Can a bankrupted restaurant brand come back to life? That's the question we're asking today. Welcome to a new episode of 𝗂𝗏𝘁 Spotlight. I'm your host, Susan Choi. This week, we're talking about Steak and Ale. The beloved casual dining chain filed for Chapter 7 bankruptcy in 2008 and 16 years later has reopened one location in Minnesota, with more to come. What does it take to resurrect a restaurant brand? Is it worth doing, especially in this economy? Let's bring in our special guest now to talk more about this. He's the new CEO of Steak and Ale and is also chairman, founder, and CEO of restaurant group Legendary Restaurant Brands, Paul Mangiamele. Thanks so much for joining us on the show. Welcome.
Susan, it's an honor to be on your show. Thank you.
Oh, the honor is ours. Why don't we start by having you describe to the audience in your own words, what is Steak and Ale?
Steak and Ale equals nostalgia today. It was founded in 1966 by Norman Brinker. He's an icon in and of himself. He also started Bennigan's, which I'm wearing my Bennigan shirt too, because Legendary Restaurant Brands actually owns Bennigan's, Steak and Ale, and Bennigan's on the Fly. So with Steak and Ale, there's a every once in a while in your career you come up with a mission. And when I bought the intellectual properties for Steak and Ale, my team, my wife, and I decided to bring it back. The overwhelming emotional connections that are attached to Steak and Ale and Bennigan's, it's just overwhelming. It's humbling. It's sweet. It's a beautiful thing, and you can't really use those words in food service today because it's so competitive. There's such fierce headwinds, and to overcome them all, to bring it back, and to realize our mission over a 15-year period of time is something to behold. But when Steak and Ale was created in 1966, it was in Dallas, Texas, and again, people gravitated toward it because if you remember way back then, there was really no division between fast food and fine dining. And so Norman Brinker, in his wisdom, thought, how about we try to fill in that space and create a new category? And it's now been termed casual dining. And to be and then Bennigan's came 10 years later, but to be the pioneers of casual dining and then come up with what I think a compelling franchise model to continue to grow, not only domestically, but internationally is something very special, and it's a legacy. It's a culture. And so that's what Steak and Ale is. I mean, it's about made from scratch food. It's about service that exceeds anyone's expectations.
Let's focus in on Steak and Ale. To quickly recap, as you've mentioned, started in 1966 by the legendary restaurateur Norman Brinker, had its heyday for many years, unfortunately did file for Chapter 7 bankruptcy in 2008. From your experience as a veteran restaurateur yourself, Paul, what do you think happened to make the brand go under?
Well, it's a really long answer, but let me try to just give you the cliff notes. It had nothing to do with the brands. It had everything to do with mismanagement. It's really interesting when these big corporations, these big public companies, these private equity companies, they get involved and purchase brands, and they forget to pay attention to the people. They forget to pay attention to the history. They forget, and they grossly forget and underestimate the power of the culture and the people that live the culture. I can go chapter and verse through this for the next 3 hours, but we don't have that kind of time. But there's a reason why there's 15, 17, 18 restaurants that have filed Chapter 11 right now. Chapter 7, for the people that don't know what it is it's game over. It's liquidation. The owners have completely given up. But what I saw, it was when I realized that the brand was still very much intact. The brand was still very much beloved. The volumes, what we call the average unit volumes, the AUVs of Bennigan's and Steak and Ale were still very, very high. So the question is, like, why are the volumes high and yet they filed for not 11 but 7? And so as I dug deeper into this, of course, I did my complete due diligence before my wife and I purchased this. We looked deeper into seeing that, well, we had 2 beautiful diamonds in the brands. Again, the pioneers of casual dining created the category. They just needed to be loved. They needed to be polished and completely introduced reintroduced in a 21st century version, and not just for a real estate play, but for a franchise model.
You know, you've mentioned nostalgia being key. What else is important to, you know, in your opinion, to making Steak and Nail successful this time around?
We looked at, ideation from a beverage standpoint, from a food standpoint, from a service standpoint, from a training standpoint. We looked at all the disciplines that go into a normal operation of a business, but then transferred it into how do we make the franchise model deliver compelling returns on any investment. And so we worked hard on that. And again, we didn't just reintroduce Steak and Ale or Bennigan's without a lot of work and a lot of pain, because a turnaround, any kind of turnaround, and everybody loves a comeback story. It's physically demanding. It's a full contact sport. There's nothing easy about it. And somewhere in your career, everybody's career, you adopt a mission, whether it's with an organization that you're working for because you identify with their values and their culture, or for us, it's we identified with the precious brands that we now own and represent, not only in the United States but around the world. That's a heavy responsibility, and I think one that my team and I, my wife and I, we have continued to strive to meet, and to not only meet expectations from a consumer standpoint, but to exceed them from a consumer and from a franchise partner standpoint. It's a very important dynamic, and one that's not really being talked about today, but it really adds up to a successful proposition, a successful business model, and the longevity, the continued longevity of the brands we own.
I think you make a really important, very salient and very underemphasized point. It is not easy running a restaurant operation, building a restaurant brand. Dovetails nicely to my next question. You know, many in the industry would say that the current restaurant landscape and the economy overall, you know, going through a lot of struggles, restaurant operators experiencing a lot of challenges, everything from, you know, labor issues to rising overhead costs to, you know, new rules and regulations, new laws being passed that are very expensive for restaurant operators, continuing supply chain struggles. What do you think that current and future Steak and Ale franchise operators need to do to effectively navigate this challenging landscape that we're in?
In terms of meeting those headwinds, in terms of meeting those challenges, I think that especially in the franchise world, there's a system. Every single restaurant franchise has a system. That system needs to be followed. The number one reason why franchisees fail, and a lot of people say, well, they're undercapitalized. No, you're supposed to kind of cover that up front to make sure they have, you know, a source of funds to continue their operations and access to funds if they need to, you know, a line of credit or such. But it's really about the system. Do you follow the system? Do you staff for success? Do you have the right management? Do you take advantage of the economies of scale that a franchise or brings to you in terms of supply chain? You know, so in terms of, you know, the food or the beverage or the, you know, miscellaneous supplies, the sundry supplies that go into, you know, making your operation hum. Do you continue to train, retrain, and cross-train all your teams? You know, from your managers to your newest DMO. Now, for those that don't know what a DMO is, it's a dish machine operator, and it's a revered position, believe it or not. Everybody thinks it's the least paid attention to, but you know, all of us that started in our business started right there. And if you don't have clean glasses and dishes and forks and knives, I'll tell you what, you're not going to have a lot of business for a long time. So it's the 1,000 of different things, you know, aspects of running this business that have to be controlled every single day to deliver that experiential versus a transactional.
All right. Steak and Ale CEO and chairman, founder, and CEO of legendary restaurant brands, Paul Mangiamele. Paul, thanks again for joining us.
My pleasure.
And if you would like to check out more of our great content, you can always click on this playlist. Till next time, I'm Susan Choi. Take care.